All right, hello everyone, and welcome to a discussion of Sailing to Sarantium by Guy Gavriel. This is the first book in the Sarantine Mosaic, and we will be back in a month to discuss part two, which is right here, Lord of Emperors. Okay, it's a duology. But today is just Sailing to Sarantium. We've only read the first book. Each of us has only read the first book. And this is part, of course, of the
G
GGGKR.
G K.
Yeah, we got to do it
Philip, we
together.
practiced that. Philip, we
Yes.
practiced it.
But we're back. We're back in the groove. We took a little bit longer than we wanted. Just scheduling issues, getting together.
Life.
We are now back, and we are very excited to have our buddy Alan from the Library of Alexandria joining us for this discussion of Sailing to Sarantium. We were also going to be joined by Kyle from Read by Kyle. Unfortunately, at the last minute, he fell ill and he's not able to be here, but we are very much looking forward to his return when we talk about this one. So he'll be joining us, we hope, in a month.
He
But
caught the bubonic plague.
yeah,
The,
the
Just,
plague,
the,
which comes
Justin, the
up,
Justinian plague,
the
not the
plague
Justinian plague.
does come up in here, doesn't it? Yeah. Hopefully not the plague. Hopefully, Kyle, you're feeling better. We hope. None of that. Although it is much more curable today than it was back then. Thank goodness.
Oh, yeah.
But
Just in case.
yeah. Yeah, I thought we should start though. There's tons to talk about here. Alan is going to be our history expert here today. He's got lots of. By the way, he made a wonderful review separately on his own of Sailing to Sarantium, which you should check out on his channel, and also a really fun video on chariot racing because chariot racing is a big thing in this book. And at the time on which this story is based, of course, this is not the ancient well, they didn't call themselves the Byzantines, did they, Alan? But Byzantium, we're calling them today. It is a world very closely. We're going to talk about how closely based it is on some of the historical figures and whatnot. But first, the title of this is Sailing to Sarantium, and that is an obvious allusion to a poem by William Butler Yeats. Yeats, Alan, and it is.
Yes, yes, I know now.
So- Sorry, I couldn't resist. By the way, everybody, Alan is also the best audiobook narrator in the whole world. I just want to throw that out there as well. You should all listen to his awesome narration of The Way of a Dan. There you go. Yep, that's right. He narrates
Y'all
it.
should go listen
Whole
to it.
trilogy. Yep, it's brilliant. But we're going to start with a couple poems by Yeats because these are a stepping off point. These are poems that obviously Guy Gavriel was inspired by, and they are very inspirational. I must say, I'm a fan of Yeats. Evan is a fan of Yeats. Alan's going to be a fan of Yeats.
Yeah,
And
I don't think so.
now that you know how to say his name, uh,
Sure.
but these are a stepping off point because these poems really do set us up for the themes. So they're important. They set us up for the themes and some interesting points of the story as well that Kay runs with that are first mentioned in the poem. So Evan is the expert with the slides. So he is going to be calling up the first and reading our first poem. It is called Sailing to Byzantium.
Yes. Let me
William
get
Butler.
this up. And we're going to do non-spoiler after this. Is that the
Yes,
plan?
that is the
Okay.
plan. But this is
Also,
non-spoiler as well. We're not going to talk about specifics, but if you've read the book, you're going to see very easily how these themes and some of the specifics in the poem are very relevant to the story. So whoops, that's Adam's Curse, wrong poem.
Oh,
There
I
we
was also yeah, I was just reading some other Yates because once I got into it, I was
go.
it should also be said that it's not actually Byzantium at this time. It's Constantinople by this
Correct.
point.
Correct.
But Byzantium, I like Byzantium because it was, Alexander the Great, the Greeks, through all that period prior to Constantine.
Yep.
also I think it's a cooler name. Generally,
I
it's got a
agree.
Y, a
It is a
Z.
cooler name. It
Yeah.
is a cooler name,
Um,
objectively.
and also like in terms of historical things, we'll see that there's a lot of conflation happening here by Yeats and by GGK. So let's read Sailing to Byzantium real quick. A favorite, one of the best poems ever, I think. One, that is no country for old men. The young in one another's arms, birds in the trees, those dying generations at their song. The salmon falls, the mackerel crowded seas, fish, flesh, or fowl commend all summer long whatever is begotten, born, and dies. Caught in that sensual music, all neglect monuments of unaging intellect. An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless soul clap its hands and sing, and louder sing for every tatter in its mortal dress. Nor is there singing school but studying monuments of its own magnificence. And therefore I have sailed the seas and come to the holy city of Byzantium. O sages standing in God's holy fire, as in the gold mosaic of a wall. Come from the holy fire, burn in a gyre, and be the singing masters of my soul. Consume my heart away, sick with desire and fastened to a dying animal, it knows not what it is, and gather me into the artifice of eternity. Once out of nature, I shall never take my bodily form from any natural thing, but such a form as Grecian goldsmiths make of hammered gold and gold enameling to keep a drowsy emperor awake, or set upon a golden bough to sing to the lords and ladies of Byzantium of what is past or passing or to come.
Brilliant. Very nice. Thank you, Evan. And in this poem, we can see the deliberate juxtaposition of the fleshly, the mundane, and the eternal, the that which is transcendent, which is reached through art. That is the big contrast here. That although I will say it's not a matter of completely we're not saying the fleshly matters is entirely negative because they give rise to the art. It's a necessary starting point, this world that we're in. But this country that is not for old men that we begin with, our ordinary world where people are carrying on, doing their things. They're, eating and loving and, and eventually dying as well. But there's not a lot of attention being paid to the elderly who are heading.
Which is what it's like when you're young. You are enveloped by the sensual music.
Yeah.
You don't want to think about the fact that you're part of the dying generations, that you're going to die like everyone else, like the old man who is the speaker of the poem. But it's going to happen to you quicker than you think, just like everyone else. And that's sort of what the old man is pointing up in the first section of this poem. I completely agree.
Yep.
And we see characters in this book who are those young, vibrant, younger characters who are paying more attention to worldly things, maybe, than the monuments of unaging intellect.
Yes. Good. And this is the second stanza where the old man feels essentially like he says, I think that's a great line, a tattered coat upon a stick, right?
Yeah, you can just see it.
A paltry thing. And yet, in the same line, there is this idea of, nor is there singing school, but studying monuments of its own magnificence. The idea of transcendence is introduced here, that the soul can reach something higher through this tattered old body. And perhaps even the elderly are more in tune with this eternal type of existence, and which is represented here by the city of Byzantium. It need not be a literal location. It's an idealized state. In fact, Byzantium is it's a state in which the arts have led us to a sense of transcendence. So it is sailing to Byzantium is a huge metaphor, really, for going on this artistic journey, this journey of transcendence and wonder, and seeing being in a sense purified, seeing the world in a way that is above all of this living and dying that we do down on the ground level.
And it's certainly true what Philip said. But Yeats also did have a fascination with the actual Byzantium, and
Yes.
specifically, it's somewhat unclear because sometimes it seems like he's referring to the Byzantium of Justinian's reign, the one that is I almost said featured in the book, which the book is based on very closely. And sometimes it's as if he's talking about the Byzantium at the end of the first millennium, at the around the year 1000, where in the 800s you have this battle between the iconoclasts who are wanting to remove all the art of the Lord and of Jesus, and that is also a major part of this book as well.
Yep.
And the Byzantium itself has had a lure for lots of people throughout history because it's this moment in time where you have this beautiful, it's kind of like the last gasp of what we think of as the grandeur of the Roman Empire. And it's got this beautiful mosaic art, which is such a huge part of the book, and
Mhm.
also this desire to unite the world or unite the Mediterranean world one last time. So
Beautiful.
the third stanza, I just want to say real quickly.
Yep.
Um, it's this idea of Yeats realizing that, or the old man in the poem realizing that he's going to die, but he doesn't want to be brought back into another living form. He wants to be put into the artifice of eternity. And what he means by that really is a work of great beauty, a work of art that will live on and on for centuries, forever, really, in this purified world that Philip is talking about. Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful poem.
Yeah, that purification is alluded to in God's holy fire. And he brings it specifically to the gold mosaic of a wall, which is, again, you can take it both literally but also symbolically. The mosaic can stand in for any type of art, really, and music and literature, whatever elevates us, whatever brings us into this state of wonder and contemplation and transcendence. That brings us into this artifice of eternity. This idea that I'm old, I've been living this life in this flesh that is dying away, and I'm sick with desire. And this is the desire for that transcendence that the speaker is feeling. So it's really quite something. And then we have the
And
last stanza.
yes, we have it. We have the appearance of what will become a character in the book, where you're
Mhm.
talking about Case taking some of these ideas and running with it. We have this mention of something being set upon a golden bough to sing, and what becomes clear in the second poem that we're going to read is
Yep.
that is a mechanical bird, a golden mechanical bird, and in the court of Byzantium of the 800s, the 900s, they did have mechanical automata. We've seen in the history that they were able to devise these things that could move with the help of things that we're not really sure of exactly. Maybe one of you guys knows more about that. But this idea of having a bird, a golden bird, be the form that he puts in.
There's a cute little bird.
Hey!
Alan, is that something that you know about the mechanical birds of the Byzantine Empire?
I do not, but it's awesome.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
My again, most of my specialty is in the West. So once we've gotten over to the East and the Byzantine, like I mean, I guess they're Romans. I
I mean,
guess.
they thought of themselves as being the Roman Empire.
I mean, that's fun, but a pilot could think of someone who doesn't know how to fly a plane could think of themselves a pilot and not be good at it. So,
I love I love throwing shade at the Eastern Roman Empire in 2026.
Yeah.
yes, always, always. Kyle is the Byzantine apologist.
Well, except that they lasted like 1,000 years longer than the West. But
And Philip,
yeah.
and what's your point, Philip?
I mean, there is something for durability, isn't there, to be said?
Okay, do they have Ostrogoths
This
and
is this is
Gauls?
I
this is the
mean,
blues and the greens all over again, guys. Come on.
Yeah,
yeah,
Work
yeah.
out your
yeah.
issues.
All right. Well, in the interest of time, we're going to go on to the second poem, which is called Byzantium, and I'll be reading that one, and then we'll be doing a similar quick reading. Look, we know there's more we could say about each poem, but in the interest of time, we're just giving a quick taste here. So, Evan will be scrolling as I read.
You grab
And
some.
this is Byzantium by William Butler Yeats. The unpurged images of day recede. The emperor's drunken soldiery are abed. Night residence recedes, night walker's song after great cathedral gong. A starlit or a moonlit dome disdains all that man is, all mere complexities, the fury and the mire of human veins. Before me floats an image, man or shade, shade more than man, more image than a shade. For Hades' bobbin bound in mummy cloth may unwind the winding path. A mouth that has no moisture and no breath, breathless mouths may summon. I hail the superhuman. I call it death in life and life in death. Miracle, bird or golden handiwork, more miracle than bird or handiwork, planted on the star-lit golden bough, can like the cocks of Hades crow, or by the moon embittered scorn aloud in glory of changeless metal, common bird or petal, and all complexities of mire or blood. At midnight on the emperor's pavement flit flames that no faggot feeds, nor steel has lit, nor storm disturbs, flames begotten of flame, where blood-begotten spirits come, and all complexities of fury leave, dying into a dance, an agony of trance, an agony of flame that cannot singe a sleeve. Astraddle on the dolphin's mire and blood, spirit after spirit, the smithies break the flood, the golden smithies of the emperor. Marbles of the dancing floor break bitter furies of complexity, those images that yet fresh images beget, that dolphin torn, that gong tormented sea. Okay, that's Yeats.
Well read. Now
Boom.
this poem is a much more impenetrable poem to me,
Uh-huh.
and I think that's actually part of what makes it so engaging and interesting to me. Is that the old man from the first poem, now he's there, or maybe it's not the old man, but the person has reached Byzantium, and what he
Yes.
finds there is not exactly the paradise that you imagine from sailing to Byzantium. And it should be said that these are kind of sister poems, and Blake sort of, or Blake Yeats imagined them that way. What he
Yes.
gets here is if you read fantasy, it's almost kind of familiar. It is a sort of dark, very strange place with these figures floating around, guiding him, or he's watching them. You have a mummy in there. You have dolphins in there. You have all these strange, weird moments, and it's all happening in the very middle of the night. It is such an evocative poem, and I think that's the reason why I love it. Maybe even a little more than the first one.
I think the best way to approach it for me anyway is that again this juxtaposition between the mundane, the ordinary, and then the transcendent through art. So in the opening stanza, it's essentially a city that is been doing all the hubbub of the daily existence, right? So you've got the soldiers now finally going to bed. You've got the prostitutes who are the night walkers most likely, every who are out, but you also have the starlight and the moonlight, which is kind of cool in Kay's world, of course, because the stars and the moon take on a lot of symbolic resonance as well. But essentially, this is a different kind of light. It's not the daylight. This is the light where you can, in peace, contemplate the beauty of this dome. And of course, we could be talking about the Hagia Sophia, right? Which also figures not under that name, but in this book, Sailing to Sarantium, you have a similar construction being made. But this is a place, this is a time when you can more purely feel the art and that sense of transcendence and beauty that is in contrast to the fury and the mire of human veins.
Well,
Uh,
the starlight and the moonlight, the dome disdains all that, man. There's a
exactly.
disdain for the natural, for the ephemeral, for what passes away.
It's
And
above it all.
later on in the poem, that golden bird we were talking about reappears, and even says that uh, it scorns aloud the common birds. So
Yes,
there's a darker feeling to this poem,
I
which is
agree.
very interesting. And I think it almost in some ways resembles more of what's happening in Sailing to Sarantium,
Yep.
because when Crispin, the main character, and we'll talk about him obviously, arrives in Sarantium, what he finds isn't exactly the beautiful paradise that Yeats was talking about in the first poem. He finds a very dangerous place, in fact. And so I think it resembles a lot of what's going on here.
Exactly. And to just add to your point that this is a darker in tone than the previous poem, in the second stanza, that image that is man or shade, and there's an allusion to the mummy cloth, the idea that the unwound mummy somehow is this passage. It's leading from one state to another, from life to death, right? And you have this death in life and life in death. So this transcendence through art is also something that is reached through death, right? That this is this connection of these worlds. In this poem, it's presented in terms that are we would normally associate with death, with the mummy and whatnot. That the mummy cloth literally connects our world and this other world. And then you have the bird, which you were talking about earlier.
And the blood begotten spirits. I mean,
Yep.
this isn't the daytime anymore.
Nope, no, indeed. And then the
Um,
dolphins come up in the last stanza, and they're important, of course, and
yeah.
they take on meaning in Sailing to Sarantium as well. The idea that the dolphins, though, are what transport people to this place, this Byzantium, which is both you can take it literally, but also metaphorically as this state of transcendence of reaching this sublimity through art.
And you can think of the dolphins, if you imagine a dolphin coming out of the water, they can sort of pierce both realms, the world and
Yep.
the half world, which are very important in the book, obviously. But yeah, a lot of stuff here. Obviously, Kay is enamored with this. I mean, it seems that this is part of what inspired the whole book. So um, certainly worth looking at.
Definitely so. But now we're leaving a lot on the table here. We're trying to be quick about this. Plus, we got to start talking about chariot racing soon for Alan's sake. So,
Fine, fine.
so now let's talk about the book. But first, we're going to do non-spoiler thoughts. I want to hear what you guys think non-spoiler, and then we're going to dive into the book, the spoilers galore, and we'll warn everybody when we get to those spoilers. So, Alan, you're the guest. What are your thoughts on Sailing to Sarantium? Non-spoiler.
I I really liked it. I don't know why other people really like it so much. Like this is one of the like hailed books. Like many people put this in their top, and I don't really know why, because of many of the things that I like about this book are not generally things that transfer. There's a lot of things, as I mentioned
Are
in
you
my
saying that
review.
you're an oddball, Alan? Is that what you're trying to
I'm
say?
saying that people tend to not like the things that I like. Because I mean, the main character is a mosaicist. It goes into detail about mosaics, extreme detail about mosaics. It is, there's not a lot, quote unquote, happens, especially in this book. I mean, there's the most exciting scene is really um, the chariot race,
For sure.
which is awesome. But there is really good political maneuvering in this. Like I love it. I love the fact the main character is an artisan. I said in my review, it reminds me a lot of a KJ Parker novel, because he reads literally this trilogy on Byzantium, like history thing to just all of his characters have Byzantine names and is vaguely Byzantine world, and many of the characters are artisans. The thing with the courier is straight out of a Parker novel. It just feels so tonally weird compared to the rest of the book.
Politicus?
Yeah,
I
Tilicus.
know exactly what part you're talking about too.
Yeah, Tilicus. And it's just and because that's something that I really like. But most people don't. And so I really enjoyed it. It's sorry if you hear that bang, 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 bang. My 10-month-old is hitting something.
He gets sleepy.
So but I loved it. I like this kind of vaguely vaguely veiled, or I guess thinly veiled historical fantasy where it's super like I don't like if it's going to be like this, I don't like having to jump through mental gymnastics to try to figure out who's supposed to be who. I like that it's a pretty one-to-one. um I'm not sure how I feel about his characters quoting the actual figures they're supposed to be. Um, Jake Bishop sent me an essay on by GGK about why he does that.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, it's fine. It's just kind of jarring. But I loved it a lot. I like the idea of an artist being the main character, of discussing how, like you guys were talking about, how art is the bridge to
Mm.
the divine. I mean, there's the one section where it's talking about how Crispin is like their god in a way when he can control the light, how light hits a mosaic tile, but him turning it, he can control what people see, like the light that people see, just like Jat. And so like you're in tune with the divine when you're completely engrossed in your artistic pursuits. And like I talked about in my review when we went and saw the Pietà at the Vatican, and my wife just broke down, like the power
Mm.
of art to move profoundly, and the fact that you ha something can be, when I think of, like, for example, on YouTube, right? There are technically proficient videos that are really well, slickly edited, really, but they lack
You will
any kind
not
of
see
soul.
on this channel.
Yeah. Yeah, but that lack any kind of soul. Like there's like it's like, okay, this is slick, but where is the life in this?
Mm.
Right? Like, and I think that is especially relevant in our era of AI that can produce results that are technically proficient but lack the human spirit that I think all great works of art have. And so I think GGK touches on a lot of these things through, through the lens of Mosaic. And again, I love the chariot race. I love the political maneuvering with Valerius too and Theodora. I forget what her book name is.
Alexana. Yeah.
Yeah, Alexandra. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's beautifully said, Alan. I love what you were talking when you were talking about the art and it's being a portal to the divine and the idea of when you're in the act of creating, you are somehow channeling the numinous. And this kind of reminds me in some ways what Tolkien wrote about subcreation and that sort of thing. So beautifully said. How about you, Evan? What are your non-spoiler thoughts on Sarantium?
Okay, so last time we met, I evaded the question, skillfully evaded the question of ranking Kay's books.
Very
The,
skillfully. Yeah.
the six that we had read at that point by instead putting them into tiers. And then if you watched the early videos that we did in this series, it's no surprise that I didn't really connect with the three novels of the Fionn tapestry. Part of that is definitely me. And part, I think, is that those are flawed books with a wildly ambitious writer who is still learning his craft. The jump in quality from Fionn to Tigana is pretty mind blowing to me.
I
I
love
love,
Tigana.
I love that book. I absolutely loved it, and I think A Song for Arban and The Lines of Al-Rasan maintain that high standard and even surpass it. So I put those three books together on the top tier. Now it's a bit, I think, premature to make a judgment on a book that is only one half of a full story. But I would not put Sailing to Sarantium on that top tier. I wouldn't put it on the tier of the Fionn tapestry, but not on the tier of the three that we just read. Somewhere in between. There's quite a lot to like about it. I enjoyed the setting and especially the ideas about art and religion and power and how those things intersect, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Some of the scenes and moments are spectacular. I know Alan is excited to talk chariot racing, so am I.
For
But
sure.
I also think that the book has some significant weaknesses too. The big one for me being a main character who is, for me, not really all that compelling,
Is it
and who is
Cassia?
Crispin.
Oh, you don't. Oh, you don't like
Main character.
Crispin? Oh, all right.
And who is surrounded by I think is surrounded by more interesting characters who I wish got more page time, but didn't. Also, I love big ideas. I love musing and philosophizing, but I think there's a little too much musing and philosophizing here that is not sufficiently embedded in the characters or the story. I can just feel Kay's own deep interest in his research in the minds of his characters, which, hey, I can really relate to that feeling. But sometimes it took me out of the book. Like I said, there's a lot here to like, but for me, I think Sailing to Sarantium will be a book that will be more rewarding to talk about than it was for me to read.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Um,
I that's
Go ahead,
why
Alan.
I mean I agree. That's why I don't understand why people rate this so highly because all that you said is stuff I like. Like they're just sitting there. Like this book made me like Constantinople more than I did prior to reading it. I'm like, all right, okay. So maybe the Eastern Empire is not as lame as I want it to be. And the sitting around like they were talking about interesting stuff. The setting is interesting to me. Um, I agree with you. I do not think Cassia and Vargos have enough to do.
Yes.
Um,
100% agree.
Theodore, I agree. And sorry if y'all can hear the baby hollering, but yeah. So I don't. This book was kind of tailor-made for the things that I'm interested in, but I do not understand why most people rank it so highly. So
It's so funny. Okay, so I'm gonna have to play Kyle's role here, and I'm gonna be devil's advocate or whatever. Um, of course, I'll be more explicit about this when we get into spoilers, but it sounds like, well, I love the book. First of all, I thought it was brilliant. And I know that Kyle, if he were here, Kyle would already be arguing with you too, I'm sure. Right now, he's watching the video and he's arguing with you,
He's
even,
coughing,
yeah,
vomiting,
yeah,
but
but
no,
not
he's
he's
because
arguing
he's
with
sick.
me. I liked it. I liked it. He's arguing. He's going after Evan.
he's
I
going
don't want to
after.
be this guy. Philip makes me be this guy. I don't want to do Philip
But
knows how uncomfortable I am about saying I didn't love something.
yeah. Well, I mean, but we're having honest conversations about these books, so that's a good. Everyone should feel free to say exactly what they feel.
I will say I did. I will say that I did not think that there were super out of place tonally jarring sexy time scenes like in Tagana,
Oh,
where it's
okay.
just like, hey, the only way we could have these people not hear us is if we did it right now behind this curtain. It's like, what? Like, I don't understand those scenes in Tagana, and there aren't any of them in this one. There's really just like one scene. I hear Lions of Al has a bunch of them, but I have not read it.
I mean, they're relevant. I'd say they're relevant to the story.
Oh, okay.
They're integrated meaningfully into the story.
The Tagana ones aren't.
Correct. I would agree with that criticism. But for me, this book, with its theme of transcendence through art, really spoke to me. And the main character spoke to me too. So I'm interested in Evan, your take on him. But I do think maybe where that might be coming from, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. And this is not a spoiler, but when we meet him, he is suffering from severe depression. He's experienced a very tragic loss. And that makes him kind of a gray character, not like morally gray, but as gray as in colorless, lifeless in a sense. Even though ironically his job is to work with color, he himself is a very gray person at this moment because of the his losses, which are really gut wrenching. And this has to do with the plague that we were talking about earlier. Yeah, this book for me so far, and again, I think Evan is right about another matter, which is we still have to read the second part of the story. So I
Yeah.
can't, I wouldn't dare rank it or anything like that. Not that I really like ranking things. Alan knows I don't really like to rank
You
things.
evaded that question too.
I always evade that question.
That's
Um,
cowardice, Philip. That's cowardice.
well, I mean, it's diplomacy is what it is.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. But no, I love the book and I'm excited to see what happens in the second half. But I think that's enough from me. Any other non-spoiler stuff before we get into the spoilers?
I like that Crispin is kind of a gloomy Gus
Yeah.
for he is not he's not your typical fantasy hero. He's not even your typical historical fiction hero. He is
Maybe not even a
um
typical artist, really, you know.
no, no, he has a skill that he employs because it is his job and because I don't know if he enjoys it at
Artists
the
can
He
be
has
gloomy.
he has a
yeah, for
deep,
sure.
abiding passion, though,
Yeah.
which comes out in moments of genuine eloquence when it's related to his art, right? And that's
Hmm.
what's probably keeping him in this world, frankly. So those are some of my favorite parts when he starts waxing eloquent about his art. I love those moments. But
Yeah, I sympathize with that. I feel like I am gloomy a lot of times also, unless we're going to talk about, you know,
chariot racing,
or ancient Greece or
yeah,
Rome, in which
yeah.
case
I'm
I
not
have
against gloomy Gus's. Can I just put that on the table right now? I
yeah,
love I love a gloomy Gus. I
yeah.
love a gloomy Gus.
I see what you're saying in that he is like I can see that he's not super interesting. I completely get that.
Yeah. Okay, well let's start there with spoilers.
Yeah.
I want to give Evan a chance to explain his feeling.
Well, okay.
Spoilers, we gotta wave our hands though. Spoilers
No,
are
it's the spoiler
the
robot, Philip. You
spoiler
don't even
dance.
remember yet?
Alan, you gotta do the dance, or no one will know. Okay, there we
It is time
Yes.
for spoilers. You must leave now.
go.
It's a
Okay,
tradition around here.
take it away, Evan. Why do you hate
No,
Chris?
no. I mean,
Yeah. Why do
the
you
thing is,
hate this
I don't
book,
have.
Evan?
I have a few like because now I'm on the defensive here against you two. Um, I think about Cr Crispin. Crispin? Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's it. Caius Crispus, but
Caius Crispin. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I don't mind that he's sad, and you know, like we said, he lost his wife and his two daughters in the plague shortly before the books started. I don't mind those things. It's just that it's hard to kind of describe. You know, sometimes you just uh sometimes a character is persuasive to you and sometimes they aren't. And as he moved through the story, what I kept there were a couple times where I felt like, okay, I'm with him, but a lot of the times I just felt that he was, how do I put this? He was too, he was too much of what the story needed him to be.
Mhm.
At given moments. Like there's a time, you know, he arrives at the court of Sarantium and he's like immediately able to bowl everyone over and makes it up to the highest echelons of that court and is all of a sudden with the emperor and the empress, you know, and everybody likes him. And this is another major point, but almost every single one of the female characters tries to seduce him or have sex with him,
That's
and that might
annoying.
speak to the underdeveloped nature of the female characters in the book, which I think is partly a function of the fact that he takes up so much page time that characters like Kasha or Solania or his mom get virtually no page time in comparison. I mean, Cassia gets a little bit. Um, and then, you know, like for example, when he gets assaulted in the steam room, like all of a sudden he's a good enough fighter to fight off some assassin who's jumping out at him, you know? And the meditations on and we're definitely going to talk about this because some of the strongest scenes and some of my favorite scenes happen in the journey from Verena to Sarantium,
Mm.
particularly the two magically well, not the one magically tinged scene with the Zubir
Zubir.
and the one where he literally falls down in the church uh, and is so moved by the ceiling there.
Yeah.
Those are very strong scenes. And part of what's strong about it is what's actually what Alan was talking about how we all can connect to having a deep emotional reaction to a work of art. And I was connecting with it in terms of that idea, as opposed to connecting to Crispin connecting to it. And so I don't know that I can itemize all the things that bothered me. It's more just a fact of like I was not persuaded by the character enough to feel uh to feel at his side. Um
Hmm.
in this book.
So I knew we were going to come to this. I knew this is where we were going to come to this point in just a second, about before we get to Sarantium versus after we get to Sarantium. I agree with everything you just said about Crispin. The fact that all the women throw themselves at him rolled my eyes. When he defends himself against the assassin in the bathhouse and Leontes just stands there, I was like, come on. I think I said audibly, like, come on.
Yeah.
For some reason, it just didn't bother me. Like, I like the fact that he's getting one over on the the
The
nobles in the court. Like, I
oh
like the fact that he's figuring out. Like, I love the fact that he used light and shadow to diagnose the chariot race.
yeah, it makes sense that he would see that because it's like a
Yeah,
mosaic.
yeah. But I
But
agree. It just for some reason, Theodore, please just let me finish saying this, and I'll attend you. I promise. But
God, I can't tell you how much I relate to that statement.
for some reason, he just connected with me like more, and I just kind of forgave it. But you're absolutely correct. Like, it's everything you're saying is true. I did not. I like when we get to Sarantium probably better than when we're sailing to Sarantium. And I knew that Philip was going to, ooh and ah about the Zubir and the forest, and ooh,
Wow.
look at this mystical mumbo jumbo that's happening here. Ooh, and oh, the bird and the buffalo. I'm just like, okay. Like, I mean, I guess if we have to do,
He's got your number, Philip.
if we have,
Yeah.
I knew it
I
was
mean,
coming. I
he
knew it was
knows me.
coming.
He
But
knows
then
me.
we get to,
He's
then we get to,
narrated my books, so he kind of
yes.
knows me. Yeah.
Then we get to civilization, Philip, where people
Yes.
live in buildings. And
Where he gets to talk about mosaics, like this passage here, which I love him for, where
oh,
he's
look at this.
saying mosaic is a dream of light, of color. It is the play of light on color. It is a craft. I have sometimes dared call it an art, my lord, built around letting the illumination of candle, lantern, sun, both moons dance across the colors of the glass and gemstones and stones we use to make something that partakes, however slightly, of the qualities of movement that Jad gave his mortal children and the world. In a sanctuary, my lord, it is a craft that aspires to evoke the holiness of the God and his creation. And I can see, Evan, where he's this is where he is essentially evoking this idea of transcendence through art. This character is. So I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I just loved it so much that I didn't care.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, I mean, and I love that for you, the both of you.
yeah.
I want everyone to love everything. So I mean, I never hold it against people when that happens.
Yeah.
But that quote you just read, like for example, that to me reads a little cliche, and it reads
Uh-huh.
a lot of this book reads a little too cute by half when it comes to the way he is describing, as if describing with the way that he is describing through the POVs of Crispin and other characters, or through the voices of Crispin and some others. It reads to me a little much, a little like he's trying to evoke or induce a feeling, a sense of significance,
Hmm.
as opposed to just finding a way to do that.
I,
I don't know. That could be me as well.
I thought he did a good job in the Zubir scene with creating that significance. Like, that is a significant scene. They
Yes.
all emerge. It's as if they died in the
Mhm.
forest along with what Linan,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
bird.
The bird.
Because when they come out of that, like, that's where we see Crispin finally emerge a little from his depressed haze and
Totally.
choose to like live. And Vargos has a new lease on life, and Cassia as well, who is, I don't really understand why she was sidelined 120 pages before the end of the book.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. I was like, when is she going to come back at the end here?
it's 120 pages before the end. I guess she
He'll be
goes
back.
to
I hope.
she has to, like,
Yeah.
she goes to the Tribune's room for some reason, and that's the last we see of her. But I think, like, did you think the Zubir scene did a better job of that, of like
Yes.
creating like organic significance rather than uh manufactured?
Manufactured. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think the Zubir scene is did a good job of
Let's
that.
talk about it. Let's talk
I
about it.
think and well, we can talk about that, but I think the following scene in the church did the best job of it in the
Yeah.
whole book.
Mhm.
that was fantastic. Like I
That
love.
was that was my favorite, probably my favorite scene in the book, maybe aside from the chariot
Mhm.
racing, which is just good, clean fun, or maybe not so clean. And but we can talk about the Zubir.
Yeah, let's talk about the Zubir. This scene worked for you, Evan, and
Yeah.
Alan. It sounds like it worked for you pretty well. I thought it was
Oh, for sure.
magnificent. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
magnificent because you do have this obvious bridge. They walk across a literal bridge, right? They are leaving our world behind through this mist across this bridge into a a, a, a whatever you want to call it, this realm of this god, so to speak, a transcendent place. Not only that, but beforehand, a sacrifice has been made because the guy that was one of the villagers who were after them, he was the stable guy who was actually really the priest of the old gods who was going to sacrifice Kezia.
Kazuya.
He gets gutted by the Zubir instead, ripped open, and his
Yeah.
heart taken out of him,
Yes.
which is, of course, what would happen normally to the victim during the ritual sacrifice, that their heart would be taken out. And if it went really well, they'd still be alive while it was pumping, like in Indiana Jones, you know. But the moment they're across there and they encounter this, and Linen or Linen, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but either way, is speaking to Crispin and instructing him, "You need to leave me here, and this is why I'm here." And it's a return for her spirit, because she, of course, as we learned, she was one of these sacrificial victims at one point or other, whose soul was stolen by Zodicus.
Zodicus. Yeah.
Yeah, by Zodicus, and so she didn't ever really got to complete this joining the divine, whatever it is, however you want to put it. Her union with the divine was interrupted by Zodicus, and so her soul was essentially trapped in this world, separately from the god, from the numinous. So this was it was really t touching, though, how Crispin has become so attached to Lynan by the.
Yeah. But
I thought
did you
that
buy
was.
that, guys?
I did at that
Because
point.
it's a very short period of time from the introduction of Linon to his to the till we lose him or her forever. I mean, I thought I thought this was going to be like a Damon situation or a demon
Yeah.
from uh his Dark Materials
I was
or some.
surprised how fast we lost her.
Yeah, and I guess we're maybe in the second book. I don't know because there is one left at the very end of the book. There's one of those
One of them
birds
left.
left, so we might get another companion.
Mhm.
But I did not feel the connection between those two by the time she was gone. So I subsequently didn't feel what I liked about the scene was the atmosphere that he was able to build with the Zubir and
Yeah.
the Aldwood and the half world and the mist and the guy dying. Like Philip and I have talked about, there's always one or two scenes in every K book with this like hy hyper real violence that is like three steps more extreme than you expect it to be. And it always kind of shocks you. And that was one of the moments in this book.
Yeah.
But the relationship between Crispin and Linan, I did not feel was sufficiently developed for us to feel sad that she was leaving us. And they were calling each other my darling and my dear. I just wasn't there. I didn't get there.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere between you and Philip. I didn't understand how Crispin figured out it was a girl. Like like she gave him advice on a girl, and then he just knew, oh, okay, she understands women. I don't know. I didn't get it. But
Well,
I
that has to be then. Yeah. Yeah.
I probably felt more than you, but I will say, come on, you did not scream at all while other people were talking. Um, hold on, sorry.
That's okay.
I oh my gosh.
So cute.
Um,
So cute.
but I agree that the atmosphere that Kay
Yeah.
created here, because this is really not my thing. Big forests of like mystical rituals going on. I am much more of a let's have this fantasy take place in the city type thing. Um, and so I thought it was really well done. Like I was
Yeah.
glued to the page. I was low key scared when all of that was going on. I had I haven't read enough GGK to know kind of predict who's going to survive and who's not. So I
Mm.
didn't know. Like I just assumed everybody was in danger. Um, but yeah, I love that scene. Like that
And I
scene
like
was
bringing the pagan, I really like bringing the pagan old gods into it, or the old spirits, and
yeah,
also the pagan ritual of the blood sacrifice. Um, Comparing that and contrasting that to all the stuff we get of Jad slash God and Hiladiko slash Jesus and the rest of the
yeah.
book, and how um, Crispin has to make in the following scene a very he makes the observation that there's something that's shared among all these forms of supernatural or magic or divine.
Yeah.
And then he eventually, in the very end, as we know, incorporates the Zubir into what his design for the underside of the dome will be.
Well, that's another reason that a lot of the coincidences don't bother me. Like I was talking to Joanna, and Joanna was, saying that there's a lot of conveniences as far as Crispin's concerned.
Yeah.
But they make a case that the half world is playing a part in this, that maybe
Mm.
these conveniences are actually, you know, uh, being guided by Jad or the Zubir or something in the half world that is divine, that is kind of guiding their steps. So that I forgive a lot of the conveniences for that as well, because
Yeah.
perhaps it's intentional and not just like, well, this is the way that this should resolve, so let's have it be that way, if
Well,
that makes
speaking
sense.
of the divine, Evan, let's talk about the scene that really worked for you. The one in the church where Crispin
So
is stunned, it's such that he ends up on his back, looking up at this mosaic and understanding, wanting to know who the artist was. I love that too, that he relates to this individual who was channeling his art so beautifully that it could affect him so centuries later. And then schooling the priest there as well, basically saying, "Hey, you've got some repairs that need doing. I'll be happy to help you out on my way back." But yeah, what worked for you in this scene so well?
Well, what worked for me is what Alan was mentioning in his own personal review. I was maybe 2 months ago in London at the National Gallery, and was sitting in front of three paintings by JMW Turner,
Oh wow.
who and I didn't expect it, but I found myself extremely moved. I was by myself, and I found myself extremely moved, almost to the point of tears. Where, if you've seen Turner's paintings, they're very atmospheric, and often the sun is kind of behind lots of fog and clouds, and it's bursting through. And I was just kind of fixated on it, and it was this deep emotional experience with a work of art, being in the presence of something that is, like Yates is saying, unaging, a monument of unaging intellect. And so when Crispin drops to the floor after, because what Kay is doing here, I think, is that he has the Zubir brings all of Crispin's walls down. Like he's become vulnerable. He's put the walls up out of necessity because his wife and his children have died, and he feels like he should have died with them. And he's got all these walls up there now because even to let a little bit of the light in is extremely dangerous. He'll completely break apart, right? So that is what explains some of his personality in the first part of the book, like Philip was saying. Then we have this moment with his Subir where he walks away from that completely dazed, like he has no walls. He's as naked as you could possibly be. And then he stumbles into this church and finds himself on his back. And that's such a beautiful image. Just, his body just can't hold his own weight. He sees this beautiful thing on the ceiling. And I felt, having gone through experiences like that myself, I felt that beauty there. And then I did like, from an idea perspective, I did like the things he was thinking about that image of Jab, when he was talking about how in the East you have this much rougher, battle weary version of Jad. I mean, it's very, very. We have to talk about the parallels between the real thing and this, and this book because
Will next.
in some ways Jad resembles Jesus to me more than Heladikos, and I think Heladikos is the Jesus analog, but it's not quite the same. It's different.
Yeah.
But anyway, in the version that he sees in this church, as opposed to the ones he sees in the West, which are these beautiful blonde, kind of regal depictions, he sees this battle weary, broken fingers. He's got a look in his eyes where Kazuya comes up and says he looks like he knows he's not going to win this battle against the forces. I do like this part of the mythology of that he is the sun and then he goes under the world and fights for humanity underneath the world and then comes back up and does it again. And you can see the scars on him in this image. And I really liked him going through all of that and actually making the connection, which he does explicitly, between the magic that comes from the Zubir and the magic that he experiences in a work of art.
Yeah, well said. And there's a lot of Prometheus in Heladikos as well, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to briefly, you mentioned Turner, and I wondered if you had ever read Ruskin's essays on Turner before, because I think that's something you'd really dig, actually.
I have not, and I will absolutely.
Okay, it's a future video, I think, on your channel.
Yeah, I've been reading Ruskin actually recently for another thing I'm working on, so I
He
will
was
look at
an
those.
impassioned defender of Turner. And I love Turner's landscapes and stuff too, really. He was just ahead of his time in so many ways,
Oh
Turner
yeah.
was, yeah. But yes, I think we do need to sail to Sarantium, guys, here. And we've been dancing around a lot of the historical stuff. And the fact is,
Yes.
Valerius is such an analog to Justinian in so many ways. Really, the prologue, which we haven't
Yeah,
really
we didn't talk about the prologue. Yeah,
but the
yeah, yeah.
prologue here is essentially the story of Justinian and his uncle Justin, and also Theodora, who is, of course, the historical figure that inspired the Empress Alexana, which I thought was a great character. Alexana was of the female characters. I thought she was a pretty cool character. But yes, like, do you guys want to talk about the obvious historical? I mean, the prologue is just kind of like history almost. You could almost just substitute names in there, really. But
So there's
thoughts on that?
the famous phrase. It's Kay writes history with a quarter turn to the fantastic.
Yeah.
This is like a 1/16th turn to the fantastic. Like
Well, for the
the
prologue part, at least, yeah.
for the prologue, but for quite a lot of it too. But
Yeah.
we did mention this, and one of the things that did really work for me was the prologue.
Uh-huh.
I really enjoyed the prologue. It's a
Me too.
fast-paced political maneuver. Like you see beautiful political maneuvering by Petrus, who becomes Valerius II. And I didn't know I didn't know where we were because I knew what this was based on. So I was assuming that this was going to be the rise of Justinian II. But actually, what we were witnessing was the rise of Justin, and then we just cut through all of his reign and start it deep. That's the other thing too. So just a little quick background. We have the reign of Justinian II, which is the last big push to unite the Roman Empire into one large empire encompassing East and West. It was
They
split by
retake Italy, essentially, yeah.
Yeah, it was split by Diocletian. It came back together, split up again. Constantine makes it Christian, and it slowly becomes more Christianized in the decades that follows. And then by Justinian's time, the Ostrogoths have Italy, the Visigoths have Spain, the Persians are coming from the east. Somebody's in North Africa. Is it the Vandals? I forget who's in
Vandals
North
were
Africa.
in North Africa.
The Vandals.
Yeah.
And so what he does is he fights the Persians. He takes back North Africa. His main general, Belisarius, who is Leontes in this book, is like this great general. He takes back North Africa. He beats the Persians in the east. He has a long series of fights in Italy and eventually is able to get back Italy with the help of
And I'm
Narses.
assuming that part is possibly going to be in books.
That's what I was thinking too. But the most dramatic part of Justinian's reign to me is the Nika riots.
The Nika riots.
And I was really surprised that we did not have that was not
we
the
get
story.
We get a flashback.
We get the flashbacks.
We get a flashback, and it's a great scene because he is juxtaposing it with the chariot racing, and I love that intercutting. But the Nika riots are what Alan was saying. The red and the blues in these
Greens and
chariot
blues.
races. They were like sports fans, but hyped up. They were political factions, and what happened was so interesting is that they got into a fight. Somebody died. They were going to hang a bunch of them, and then two of them, the ropes break on the nooses, and they capture them and they bring them and put them in jail. And the reds and the blues and the greens unite and put aside their differences to riot through the whole city, right? They riot through the whole city. They burn all the stuff down, including the church that was there before, the Hagia Sophia, the church that was there before. And Justinian is almost deposed by the rioters. And what happens is this famous speech by
Theodora.
Theodora
Yeah.
that is, like Alan was saying, almost word for word in the book.
Yeah.
And what eventually happens is that there is this brutal, brutal massacre
Yeah.
inside the Hippodrome where they trap almost 30,000 people and massacre all of them. And so it's this extremely dramatic thing that's happening in the reign of Justinian, and it has a kind of resonance on the book because things are taking place in the aftermath of that, and tensions are still a little bit high. And so, if you knew all this and knew about how the Italy campaign goes, I think you might have a sense of how this is all going to unfold.
Mm.
How did you guys feel about the closeness to history?
Alan, you go on that.
I mean, I liked it because especially if it's something that I know about. I mean, again, this is not my specialty, so I did a lot of reading. Like when it called the Victory Riots, I'm like, that's not is that what they're called? And I'm like, no, it's the Nika riots. That's right, because Nike is Greek for victory. And they changed it a little bit in the book. It's some priests that that get off instead of being hanged or something. And it's also about taxes. It is a little bit about taxes.
It's
Oh,
always
big.
about taxes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right. In history, it's a blue and a green, which is why they unite, because it's two chariot racers that are supposed to get executed, and then they, like I said, the rope breaks, and so they unite. And I always there is a tendency sometimes in historical fiction or historical fantasy to change what actually happened for no other reason than you can. And the problem is, I find a lot of times it's not more interesting than what actually happened. And so I don't know how you could have made the Nika riots more fascinating, more
Yeah.
brutal, more
Yeah.
costly in blood than you did. And it also illustrates, just like a novel, it illustrates how strong Theodora is, the influence she had over the most powerful man in the world, basically, at that time. We see Justinian's lack of desire for this kind of, he's a scholar. Like, the man wants to read and he wants to build and he wants his legacy secured, which again is something that we can talk about later. The 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 unity of all this art and the violence, right? That underscores a lot of it. One of my favorite scenes is when Leontes and Crispin are talking in the bathhouse. It's one of
Yeah.
my favorite scenes in the book.
Like you
Um,
couldn't make your art if I didn't defend you, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And he uses the point of like, go look at Rhodius. Like, look at all those mosaics, burnt because y'all couldn't defend it. And so I like that we see here, just like in real life, how first of all, how precarious Valerius's reign is, that all it takes is a mob of sports fans to like literally put him in a situation where he's thinking about abdicating. But Theodora wisely says, how many people have come back after giving up their city? Like you're the scholar. Think about it. How many people get to return? Exactly, exactly. And purple's a good enough color for a shroud, right?
Yeah.
So
What a
It's a
lie.
great speech. I mean, it's an
Yeah.
all-time speech.
oh, it's amazing. So I don't think I I think it had to cleave this close to history because I don't think you could have made the points that are trying to be made. I don't think you could have done it better than was actually done, or at least recorded by what, Procopius? Is that Justinian's main biographer? I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
Belisarius's dude. Yeah.
yeah, so I loved it, and I am eager to see that fight for reunification in in the second book, which I hope it's there. Because I love the old versus the new in this book. You've got Rome that underscores, just correct me if I'm wrong. Justinian was the last Roman emperor to natively speak Latin, correct? Like I think he was
Yes,
the
I think
last
so. Yeah.
one
Mm.
and after that it's Greek
Greek.
And
because
that was rare for the time too, as well.
yeah, for,
Him and Justin both spoke Latin.
for sure. So, you've got like Rome, the echoes of Rome is affecting basically everything over here in Sarantium, certainly as far as Valerius too's concerned. Like he wants to reunite with the legacy of the old. Like they are, he knows they're built on the backs of the Rhodian Empire. And so his great legacy is going to be, one, this church, two, restoring the empire to what it was. And I think that says a lot about what Valerius's motivations are. And I liked it. Like I like this. I like internecine periods of history here where
Yeah.
wars are being fought. I prefer it much more. I think it's more interesting than a lot of the Pax Romana peacetimes. But I'm eager to, excuse you, huge belch. I'm eager to see where it goes from here. Philip, what about you?
My take on this is that this is much more than just a repetition of the history. That you have to look at what does Guy Gavriel Kay create by using this story and incorporating it into the Sarantine Mosaic. What's the product? What does he actually achieve by doing that? And I think you can almost think of it as a wedding of the Yeats poems with this history to explore this theme of transcendence through art. And the relevance here is everything is fleeting, everything is ephemeral. There's a constant threat to civilization. So that's the argument you were talking about between Leontes and Crispin, where Leontes was insisting, no, what I do is actually more important because your precious art would never even be able to exist without people like me. So don't judge me, right? I'm necessary to what you do. So this precarious existence, this as in the Yeats poem, this sense of blood and guts and mud and all of that. Yes, it can produce great art that enables us to transcend the existence itself. But and by giving us anchoring it in an actual history that feels so real, I think it really does serve what Guy Gavriel Kay is trying to do here. So for me, it worked brilliantly. I loved that he, as you said, he stuck very close to the history for reasons that, I mean, it's a compelling story, but he also makes it part of what he's exploring here in this duology, and it worked really well for me.
And we
And
should say that it's also it's also connected to the lines of Al Rasan.
Yes, it's a bigger
It's a
picture. Yeah.
shared universe with that book, even though it takes place before those events. I mean, I would imagine before.
Yes.
Um, and one thing I just wanted to pick up on from what Alan said, because it reminded me when he was talking about Valerius and how it shows so much of what he's interested in terms of reunification and also these monumental building projects. There's a suggestion in the history and also in the book that he, after all the danger was over, that he actually liked the fact that the Nika riots burned down so much of the city
Mm.
because it allowed him to take on these huge architecture projects like the Hagia Sophia, because so much of the city was burned down and had to be started anew. And so the connection between what Alan said in his review of the video between how power co-ops art and how smaller powers are co-opted by larger powers, that's all in it. And just a great detail for the way that Valerius is in the chariot racing. He doesn't want to be there because all he want, and this is true about Justinian too, all he wanted to do was work. Like he was called the night emperor because he was up all night working, you know. he doesn't want to be at the races, so he says this little thing, but they're underneath where he is, like underneath where people can see, there's a little
Nice.
guy waiting to just take his dictation on it. So he's just like watching the races like this and saying, okay, can we get four more of the tax revenues to this way? And he's working throughout the races. So I thought as a piece of characterization, that was a pretty good
It was brilliant.
little.
Yeah. And
I know.
Nero had the same thing with the Great Fire. The Great Fire in 64 cleared out all the space that the Senate wouldn't let him tear down, so he could build his golden palace. So I mean, but Nero, is not Justinian. But I like that Justinian wants his legacy to be reuniting and this scholar building like the Hagia Sophia, all these building projects, the reuniting of the East and the West, and yet like it seems currently that his legacy is going to be 30,000 people were massacred
Yes.
under his order, and whatever the blood toll is of the reunification wars. So he's striving for this one legacy, but he's also like parallel building a separate one bathed in blood.
This is
Yeah,
the
he
thing that astonishes me because you have these very charming, sophisticated characters like Valerius, a brilliant mind. Alexana, also brilliant in her way. And in a minor way, a character who parallels them is Giselle or Giselle, the monarch of the Ostrogoth analogs, or
the anti,
The
the
Anton.
anti. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are characters like when she meets with Crispin, she has her
Own
huge
people.
guy kill all the guards who had brought him over, right?
Yeah.
Because we can't have anybody knowing about this. The brutality somehow alongside the desire to create a beautiful structure like I forget what they call it in the holy whatever it's called in here the Hagia
The
Sophia,
holy Jad, the holy
holy
supple
Jad something.
Jad something.
It's astonishing to me that these two things can dwell in the same person, right? That you could be so devoted to beauty and art and be so sophisticated and intelligent on the one hand, and then on the other be such a brutal, how do these two things exist in the same person?
Yeah, I also like the because the the new ways are supposed to be more civilized than the old ways.
The pagan ways where they sacrifice
pagan,
people. Yeah,
yeah, where
exactly.
they rip out their heart. And yet
Yeah.
we see in the funeral for Giselle's dad, the people who are supposed to be above that now, they bathe that sanctuary in blood trying to murder her.
Yeah,
And
trying to
so
mutiny.
I just thought it was a really interesting, juxtaposition where it's like, I mean, have y'all really moved on past the old ways that demand blood sacrifice? Because they even comment that like they have now anointed this sanctuary
Yeah.
with sacrifice and blood, the same way the pagans would have done in their savage rituals.
That's the perfect segue, I think, to the chariot racing, because we're talking about violence and sport and all that stuff. But the one point I want to make on the history is that the one big variation that I found that he made, besides having actual magic, is Giselle in the history. The one woman she's based on, Amala Suntha, I think is her name.
Yeah.
She dies. She is murdered in that moment, and that is uh, Justinian's reason to launch the war against Italy. In this version, she makes it out with the help of Zodicus on the boat, and she's now coming to Sarantium. And so I'm curious to see if that divergence makes a difference in what happens next.
That's his quarter turn.
That's his court. Now he's turning.
Yeah,
Now he's
that's his
really
quarter.
turning.
Well, the whole Zodicus part is yeah,
Yes.
a major
Yes.
point, let's say.
We need to talk about Zodicus, but if we're talking about violence and the way it's co-opted and sublimated for a public, the chariot racing is the perfect thing, and it's doubly pointed out because, like we said, it's intercut with the flashbacks of the Nicarite. Well, it's the flashbacks of the massacre. of them actually deciding how they were going to massacre these people. And as we're going through that, we're having this amazing chariot race, which is thrilling. You know, it's we got Scordius, who's like a genius, and then we have this guy who doesn't make any other. He doesn't make much other appearance in the book, I don't think. Right, the other chariot racer,
The green one,
the one that we're in the POV of for a lot of it.
Yeah, the green guy. Yeah.
the
Yeah,
green guy.
yeah.
He's the
And
replacement for Scordius, essentially.
Yeah,
and then
he's
and
the
I'll
new.
let Alan go off on this because I know he knows so much, but more than me. But the third level is that the higher level is that the god of Jad is a chariot racer. And so he's equating spirituality with sport, with war, all at the same time. And the emperor, as he walks into the stadium, understands, I think there's a moment here that understands that he, even though he's the emperor of this entire, civilization, he is a slave to these rituals and to these religions that are what are really controlling so much. And you have this image, I think maybe even in his box, of Heladikos or Jad in a chariot, in a golden chariot. And so there's a lot of layers that are happening here that made this scene particularly effective, I thought.
Yeah, and he couldn't not go if he wanted to. He doesn't want to go. He has
Yes.
to go because the people will not stand. They just won't countenance an emperor who doesn't like the chariot racing. Like it's too endemic to their society at that point. Like everyone goes to the chariot racing. It's like
And we see what could happen to him if we know what could happen to him if they turn against him.
for
Like,
sure. Yeah.
we've
So
seen it.
especially after the Nika riots, he's got to go now. Like if he thought about it before, he certainly doesn't think about it now. I thought the chariot scene was just so well done, especially if anybody's seen Ben-Hur.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I get if you didn't know anything about chariot racing and you have difficulty visualizing things that it could be hard, but I thought it was phenomenal. From discussing the random lots of which gate you have to come out because you want to gun to the inside turn, to the factions, the different. Because factions can have multiple teams racing at the same time. There were Scortius wasn't the only blue team out there. The one I forget what the green guy's name, but he wasn't the only green team out there. The fact that the greens are subordinate to the reds are subordinate to the greens, the whites are subordinate to the blues, and they kind of work together. Just that it's like a microcosm of the political system where they've got their heroes and they have their own betrayals and reversals of fortune. So exciting. And then taking the inside track and trapping um Scortius trapping the green there because he saw people turned away. He saw the dark side of their face because knowing that it was they would not have turned their face away from these two titans of the racetrack for anything other than like blood sport, right? Like
Yeah.
something was bloodier than what was happening on the field. And I thought that was brilliant. And you see the split second decisions that they have to make. You see the crashes that happen at the turning posts. You see the blades that they have to cut themselves free
Yeah.
of the reins. It was thrilling. I think it is harder than people think to write sports or a sporting event
Oh yeah.
in fiction. Like you see, you think that it would be, it should be self-explanatory because of how interesting it is, in a visual medium. But I think it's really hard to capture that with the written word only. And I think Kay does a really good job in this of capturing the moment to moment decisions, the danger of it, and what it looks like from the stands, the people who are watching it, and what it can lead to. Because you get again, he juxtaposed it with the flashbacks of the slaughter at the
Which happened
Hippodrome.
in the same place
In the
that
same
they're
place.
that,
Yep,
that they're
yep,
at.
yep.
Blood soaked.
People
Yeah.
who thousands at the stadium during the race knew and were related to and were
Yeah.
friends with,
Yeah.
Yeah,
brother,
and
sister, like
and people don't understand how seriously the Romans took their factions. Like
Yeah.
you did not switch teams. Like you just didn't. Like if you were raised as a green in your family, you didn't all of a sudden become an adult and be like, you know what, I'm gonna support the Blues. That's a good way to get like kicked out of your family. They took this so seriously, especially in the period of history that we're in. Like they took this really, really seriously, which is why there's so much animosity towards Scortius, who,
Switch
you know,
sides.
who switched factions. And he didn't just switch from like he didn't go from the reds to the greens. Like that's a natural progression. You earn your bones in the subsidiary factions and get up to the main ones. No, he switched from the main rival of the Blues. Brett Favre switching from the Packers um, to the Vikings, and it conjures so much hatred among the fans for how dare you.
Alan,
So
you alluded to the subsequent later scene where Crispin is able to understand how Scordius understood where to position his chariot by looking at the not just not individual faces, but just the play of the light as
yeah,
everybody turns their faces. And that I felt was a brilliant scene as well. That whole
so cool.
scene to me was so just excellent, and his introduction to Valerius II's court and all of that. The tension, that's something that Kay does, by the way. You will see in many of his books these scenes where there's a meeting or some important occasion, and you have all this tension from these various places, these factions, all of that going on. And poor Crispin doesn't even know all the politics that are surrounding him. And he's having to navigate this sort of on the fly and gets a guy fired in the process, and pisses off one of the main rivals to Alexana, but also wins Alexana.
Liliana, who also tries to seduce him, so it's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah. And that might have been one seduction scene too many, but I do really love the interactions between Alexana and Crispin. I thought that was a part that was
Were they trying to get a threesome or a foursome going in there? Because it felt like there were vibes of that at some point when Valerius walks back in and she's already seducing him and they're just kind of like cool. I felt that there was a lot of sexual tension in that
I
scene.
think it was more, so I read it more as she is using her sexuality and her aura to basically manipulate and use Crispin to manipulate him. But I don't think he ever would have, like, if he had actually crossed that line, he would have been in deep trouble. Like, I don't think that was ever really on the table. Like, she's just
Yeah,
simply,
yeah,
it's a bit like, in the troubadours worshiping the noble lady
yeah.
who's out of reach for them. So I think it's more
Yeah.
like that. But
I
I
did
like
like
that.
the
Oh, sorry, go
sorry, I was just gonna say like I love political intrigue. That's one of the things I like to read for. I
ahead.
did like it a lot better in A Song for Arban and Lines of Alrasan than here.
yeah.
I like that Valerius defers to Alexana in a lot of things,
Mhm.
but not in distracting his builder, not in distracting his mosaicist from the sanctuary. Like he's not going to leave the city to avoid danger because Theodora tells him not to, but she's not going to borrow Crispin for her dumb dolphins before his before his ceiling is finished. Like that is where he draws the line. He's like, no, no, no. When he's done, if he has time, he'll deal with your walls.
With your little
Can I
doll.
just can I just go back to the sports really quick because
Yes,
I
Mhm.
just
please.
I just want to connect it real quick to if anybody's watching the NBA finals right now, like
Oh,
the it always strikes me because the Knicks just had this incredible comeback in the last game that and the whole series has unleashed so much emotion in the city and in the stadium and you can feel it that you really do see and you can see how sports fills a need that is kind of lost in the modern era. Whether it's a good or a bad need, I don't know, but this sense of victory and fighting and war, and it's something in us that if you read through Roman history and before and after, it's like it's war all the time. It's such a huge part of their lives, and what who they are. And so much of the past, especially when you get 1,000 years plus back, can seem so alien and strange to us. Like the way they fought against which is covered in this book, the way they squabble over religious differences like Arianism and the fights, all those weird little sectarian fights about the divinity of Jesus, that went on forever and ever. And you read it now and you're like, this is the smallest thing ever, and yet people are getting killed over this. Some of that can seem very alien to us today, but the fact that they had these sporting events where there were rabid fans for sports teams and sports athletes, it's something that is so relatable to the modern reader. And it just shows that in the way that we've been talking about how things, human nature lasts through time, is that there are certain things about us that if they maybe pop up in different guises are the same um, forever.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, sports and art are both huge in this book.
Mm.
Yeah.
Speaking of art, the character that I enjoyed, Artabasos, the architect who
Love him.
designed, I mean, great,
Yeah, me too. I liked him.
going around barefoot to see if there are any, things that need to be, sanded down and all of that, but also his interactions with Crispin and you can see the respect growing between the two of them. And eventually
Obviously.
he wins him over because you can tell because when they're reviewing the design, he's got the archbishop guy or whatever they're called. They're not called archbishop, but you know who I'm talking about.
Mhm.
They're kind of like, is this heretical? The design
Yeah.
for the mosaic, and then you've got Artabasos who is speaking for Valerius II there, and the head of the church has his little minion who's speaking for him too, and they're having the argument through their surrogates, if you will. But you can tell that Valerius is behind the design and Artabasos is behind the design. And we need to talk about the design because I think he does have a little, there's a place in the mosaic where you would expect to see Heladikos, but he's not there, which is a little bit of a, that's where the little bit of like, he kind of wakes up in the night thinking, wait, it is heretical, right? That's
But he
the
can't
church
put his
guy.
finger on why.
Yeah, but there's a spot for Heladikos there. But yeah, as you said earlier, Evan, the Zubir gets a nod in this design, but you have the city itself, Sarantium, beneath Jad and the heavens. And as a metaphor, again, sailing to Sarantium, this whole thing is about reaching out, reaching upward through art to the divine. And that is very much, I think, something that Crispin conveys in this design. So your thoughts, guys, on the design for the mosaic?
Well, one of the cool things is that he pictures I'm pretty sure he pictures the city with the church in the design. And so
Yeah,
what they mentioned is it's almost a double perspective where you are looking from within and without like what you're actually seeing is you are also when viewing it inside the dome that you're looking at. And I do like that earlier in the book when he sees the Zubir and he's decided. Well, what happens when he sees the Zubir is that he learns that he doesn't want to die, which is what he thought because of the tragedies that he's experienced. And he doesn't want to die. And then he sees the church and he realizes then that he wants to live so that he can make something a monument of an unaging intellect, to quote Yeats. But he specifically says at that point that he doesn't know what it is. Like he just has the desire to make something great, but he hasn't any idea of what it's going to be. And then by the time we get to the end of the book, he conceives of this design that incorporates the eternal and the personal, the Western religion and the Eastern religion. And he's trying to make a synthesis of all these things because he says that in the crowds I'm pretty sure he says that in the crowds they're going to have likenesses of his daughters and wife as part of the design as well. And so it is cool that what he's decided to do is find a synthesis of all these competing things, which are in themselves very um, transient, very, very much related to the real world and things that are begotten, born, and die, like from the Yeats poem as well. But he's going to transform them into a work of art that will last and be this connection to the beautiful, divine, eternity.
And he's reuniting the East and the West in the dome, the same way that
yes.
Valerius is wanting to reunite them temporally.
And Valerius gets it too. He understands that. Yeah.
And I
It's
like how the architect kind of I love characters who feel very comfortable sort of talking back to the emperor. And
Yes.
because they're like too old and they need them, and I
He's
love when
he's
you
too much of a genius for Valerius to
yeah,
have
yeah,
a
there's
problem
always a
with.
character like that in a fantasy
Yeah.
book. I love that.
Yeah, Valerius does indulge him, I think, there. Yeah. Um, so we're missing a bunch of things. Like we didn't talk much about Casia, for example,
Or
and
Zodicus, or the
Zodicus,
birds.
birds. So
Zodicus's daughter.
maybe we could start with Casia, then go to Zodicus and his birds, and then Zodicus's daughter, real quickly. But why does Crispin save Casia, do you think? Why does he? Yeah, and he's kind of a spur of the moment dude there several times. Uh,
Oh, so I need to bring this up because Alan mentioned this in his video, and this is something I picked up on so much, and I have to say it did bother me quite a bit. This thing that we're doing the K-isms, okay? We know what the K-isms are, but there is a K-ism that we haven't talked about that he does in every single book, where he has this formulation where he says later he would think of this, and this would be the reason why. Afterwards why did he do that so much in this book? I was like,
It was
again?
really distracting in this book.
Oh my God, at
Really
least
distracting.
15 times he did that.
It was super
Um,
distracting.
I think it was
and the reason,
tonal. I think it was a tonal reason. This
yeah,
book felt
it was so many times
tonally.
I thought, is this purposeful?
I think it was. It's similar to why he does the Telemachus scenes. I
Oh,
feel like
so funny.
he's going for something there. I think when he's doing that, and when you get the whole story of Telemachus and him going into the desert and all that after he's been, I mean, it's kind of a it's definitely not that pertinent to the main narrative, but it does introduce a certain lightness into the tone of this, which I think probably is deliberate because a lot of this is pretty dark. So there's a bit of humor being injected in here. That's how I read it anyway.
I
My
think
issue with all the foreshadowing lines are normally when a fantasy book does this, once I have read it, I can go back and be like, "Oh, I see where you could have seen that this was coming here." That's you can't do that in this book. Like there's no like I don't see how later they could have seen that this was happening. Maybe just because
yeah.
I do not have the complete picture because there is a second book, or it's just stylistic in this at
It's a
this point.
bit like where in The Hobbit, Tolkien has his narrator talk to the reader directly, like like it's like when you're at your home having tea or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It affects the tone of the story, I think.
I got you.
I think it's a narrative choice that is overused in this book.
Uh-huh.
I hear I hear what you're saying, Philip. I just think that, and it may be a good opportunity just to take a more global view of all this stuff because
Yeah.
this book is um, the narrative voice of this book can be slightly confusing at times, and the reason I say that is because and he is Tolkien. Kay is one of those writers who's more Tolkien-esque than modern fantasy writers, where he has a more pronounced narrator than you see in a lot of modern fantasy. Because what has become the norm is the limited third person um, the limited third person, close third person on the shoulder of the character. You only experience what that character and only can really think what that character is experiencing.
Hmm.
Taking that to its furthest extreme is the Malazan, where it's gone so far that he doesn't even give you a helping hand. Like you are locked into what this person knows to the point of not and that can be difficult, but it's really consistent and in the end becomes really rewarding because it feels right. There are times in Kay's books, and it's specifically this book, where you're in a close third person like Crispin or somebody else, and he's thinking through exposition where you clearly like some like he does it with Bosphorus in the prologue, that one senator guy, and he does it later in the book where he's thinking through recent history, and it's like maybe it's the narrator, but it's sort of from his perspective, and um that I think is was a little confusing for me at this book, and it worked. I rubbed up against it because I wish he would have found a more either let us just sort of roll with the punches more, or found a more organic way to bring in the exposition that he needed to bring in. And then you have these weird asides, which I don't think there need to be hard and fast rules. I really don't. But the thing with Politicus
Mhm.
is a very strange diversion. Now, if it's interesting, I will forgive almost everything. And in fact, that section I really liked. And so I don't really care that it didn't really match with the rest of the narrative voice in the book, going through this comedic future history, which presumably overlaps with a lot of what's going to happen in the second book. And I think what we're going to see is, uh, what am I wrong in thinking that there was a hint of the rise of the Arab conquest and the Muslims in that section of with
Oh, are you
Tilicus?
kidding? You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that uh, uh, that will play a big part in the second book, and I think he's going to squish history a little bit in terms of those things. But overall, I felt that he was not as in control of the narrative voice as he has been in Tigana, uh, Song for Arban and Lines of Our Song.
Yeah.
Um,
I think he was trying to do something. I mean, that's clearly some vocalization in the Teledicus parts where it's
well,
definitely more comedic thing going on there.
yeah, well, that particularly is so out there that it's like, okay, I guess we're doing this now. But it was funny, like you said, it adds humor, and that worked. It's more those moments of exposition where uh, he presents it as if it's
Uh,
vocalized,
yeah.
and you're like, would this person be thinking about like the recent like would this person conveniently be thinking through the recent history or through some recent like geographical situation or situation about war right now? And I rubbed up against that a little bit. But
Sure. I get it. But yeah, I'm glad he got some humor in there because there's some rough stuff. I mean, Casia's whole story of being sold after the plague, losing her father and her brother, and her mother having no choice but to sell one of her daughters into slavery so that the other could survive, and thinking, well, this is the clever one, so maybe she'll figure out a way. That's just awful. It's gut-wrenching. And then, of course,
well, and they also mentioned too that it wasn't just going to be the sacrifice. She was going to
oh,
be
skinned
sexually
and
assaulted. She
yeah,
was going to be
sexually
sexually assaulted by
assaulted,
the guy. Yeah, yeah.
flayed, have her heart ripped out, all kinds of. I mean, it was horrific.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And what happens to Vargas? Vargas gets into a fight with his father and gets beaten up by the
yeah,
townsfolk or his brothers.
yeah. And I think it was
And
his father and his brothers, because he
yeah,
fought with his father, and so he decides to go off on his own. But uh, Crispin wins his heart with this decision to save Casia. It's not that he had any like romantic notions of his own or anything like that. He just kind of admired the guy for being, courageous enough to do this in this moment, to make this sudden decision. He respects it. So he kind of wins him over, and Vargas becomes a real loyal guy to the degree that he attempts to defend Crispin when he first meets Carillus,
yes,
who get.
another underused character, I feel.
I mean, yeah, he's introduced late enough in the story where and he'll come up again, in part two.
Oh,
I
for
mean,
sure.
he'll come up again, but he was fun. I immediately liked Carillus as a character. Just the way he talked, the way he started to like Crispin because Crispin was very creative with his swearing. I thought was great. Like there was a potential for a bond there, and it really did sort
Well,
of
that's the thing.
start to flower.
It's kind of like a quest story in the first half where
Uh-huh.
we get our group, and as we're adding people to it, including Linan, the mechanical bird. Like this is a ragtag group of people, and I was like with them, and I was starting to sort of develop the camaraderie that they develop, especially when Carolus comes along, and then we get to Sarantium, and we sort of lose track of them a little bit. They don't stick together. Crispin gets sucked into the court life,
Yeah.
and that is what becomes his focus while the rest of them are kind of fading away. I mean, Vargas has this moment where is he able to find out that it's Tiliticus
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
launched the
there's the
assassination
assassin.
attempt
Yes.
because of his experience with the Zubir?
Yes, I'm not sure if it's because of the experience with the Zubir necessarily, but he does figure that out. And I'm predicting that you're going to get these other characters. They're going to get their just deserves
I hope so. I
in
really
the
hope so.
second book. Particularly, I would love to see more of Cassia and Vargos for sure. But I think
Yeah.
their stories are there. They have to be taken up here in part two.
And
So
what about Zodicus? I mean, let's maybe
okay, he's not going
do
to be in
Zodicus.
part two. We can say that much.
What do you make of him stealing these women's souls and putting them into his mechanical birds?
So this is where a
Um,
lot of the magic is, and there's the half world and all of that, and it harkens back to the more pagan days, and so I like that as a world building element. Let's say I like that we have this here, and I like the sense of the mysterious that we get through the half world, where. And the modern religion is not entirely out of touch with it either. They're just different paths into this sense of the numinous, as it were. But his ability to steal, I mean, we never get, and I don't want that. I don't want to have it explained to me how he manages to steal
no.
the souls of these women who are supposed to be sacrificed. But I like the idea of his character being someone who does something as a young person so unthinkingly because he's clever and he can do it, but he doesn't think through the repercussions of what he's doing to these women, right? Was he doing it to save them from the Zubir? No, it was really more, can I do this? And it was gutsy, but it was really kind of a jerk thing to do, to enslave their souls in these mechanical birds. And make them talk. And it did give us a couple great scenes with Crispin too, like when he was a kid and he went into the orchard and the birds are making fun of him. And then later on, there is a bit of the rapport, and I would have certainly loved more, but Lynan had to go. But we do have
Well,
the
then, and it. I was just going to say it's paralleled. You're talking about a little bit of a jerk. It's paralleled by the fact that it's suggested he was a promiscuous man
it was the
as a
womanizer,
young man and had a lot of children and that he does not keep up with. And
right?
when we later in the story meet his daughter, when Crispin meets his daughter, she clearly would love to have more of a relationship with him. But it seems that he's more interested in his, alchemy and his magical arts than he is,
Pyromancy. Yeah.
yeah, than keeping up with his children, which makes him a very. I like it because it makes him a very flawed character,
Yeah.
and he's definitely a charming character. So you feel pulled and pushed at the same time with him.
Alan, I feel like if you were doing the audiobook, your Zodicus would sound a lot like your Galdor voice.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, how many dads out there are more interested in their hobbies than spending time with their children, or even nothing as malicious at that? Like, how many dads just find themselves spending more time at their job, or you know,
Or maybe 5 more minutes in the bathroom just to
yeah,
get your head
yeah,
straight.
yeah, exactly.
That's the guy who was
Um,
just taking care of his baby. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I really stop. You're tearing up my computer, child. Oh my gosh.
We did have 4 people in this chat. We just didn't
Yes.
know it.
So I really like the Zodicus character.
Yeah.
And like you said, Philip, like I like the kind of the folly of youth, and I like characters that are too clever, for their own good. And because I don't think he did it to save them. I think he did it to see if he could.
Yeah.
And then when he did, and he collected all of those, like I like how he really wants those birds in Sarantium. Like he wants to be acknowledged for his cleverness, but he knows that it is too dangerous in the current religious climate to do so. So I am eager to see in the next book, because I think his daughter and the one remaining bird are going to have a much, much bigger part, because he does have a bird in Sarantium. And so his legacy lives on there. So I'm eager to see how that how that shakes out.
Yeah. And how is that soul going to be freed? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're mentioning a lot of characters who we hope have significant roles in the second book.
Plus a
You better
huge
give us these. You better
conflict.
give us.
Yeah. How big is the book? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I like Leontes. Like I like that
yeah,
he is this brilliant general who does the brutal things required of him, but is also extraordinarily pious. Like so much so that he doesn't even agree with the fact that Jad's image
He's an
yeah.
should even be.
He's an
Yeah,
iconoclast. Did that even exist at that time? I'm sure it did, but
yeah. So he doesn't even believe that Jad should be depicted, but he is, he's also a servant of the Empire. So
yeah.
he does what he's told. So I like for being in it as little as he is, I really enjoyed what Kay did with Leontes.
Well, Belisarius is one of the most fascinating characters of the cadre of interesting people surrounding Justinian, and
Yeah.
so I would hope that he gets more face time in
Hmm.
the second book. I mean, he is the last great Roman general. I mean, he there's so much to say about him, and if we are going to Italy or Battiara in the second book, I think maybe we will see more of him.
I hope
Um,
so.
All right. Well, I'm sure we missed something in all of this, but we took a good stab at it here. Anything that you guys want to bring up that we didn't talk about?
I would just say that as a final note that I think I was right that it was more fun to talk about this than it was to read. It's because the ideas are interesting and you guys are interesting. And if I bounced off the book a little bit, that's just the way it goes sometimes. And I'm going to keep myself open for part two, which I've heard really good things about.
Hmm.
And he's far past earning my respect, Guy Gavriel K. So, I will always give him the best shot.
Yeah.
Alan, this is
I
your
really enjoyed
second
it.
GGK, right? So,
Yeah, I've read Tigana. I bounced off the corn swords in Tigana.
Tigana.
We all do. We all do.
Like, I get that's a real thing, and like you don't have to put all real things in your books. Okay, I don't need the corn swords. That scene goes on so long, but
But it's fun to say, though, isn't it?
yeah, I
Sorry.
love Tigana, and I like talking about this with you guys, even though Evan hated the book.
No,
I thought it was
no.
really good to talk about it, despite the fact that Evan hated it so much.
I'm gonna make a prediction. I'm gonna make a prediction that Evan is gonna like it sailing to Sarantium more after reading
That's true.
Lord of Emperors. That's
That's why I'm withholding full judgment.
Yeah,
yeah,
same.
fair enough. Fair, and you said that from the beginning, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on, put me on record and don't listen to Alan. All right.
I'm actually gonna edit out the part where you said that earlier.
Yes,
This is
please remove it and only keep in my part where I said he hated it.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. Well, this has been a fun discussion, and we are marching onward with the GGGKR. And I actually have high expectations of Lord of Emperors. I really enjoyed this one, but I also really enjoyed chatting with the two of you.
Thank you.
And also want to thank everybody out there who's been following along with the GGGKR. Or maybe you're somebody who just came in to see our thoughts on this particular video. Either way, thank you so
Is
much.
is Alan coming back for Lord of Emperors?
Yes, Alan is coming back, and hopefully Kyle will be back. Kyle
Yeah.
will be well in a month, and he'll be back to chat with us, so he can tell us why we were wrong about several things, perhaps when he comes
I
back.
look forward to it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody, but that is it for us for now. Until next time.